All right, welcome back. Let's bring you into all that we're doing on the show. There's a lot to talk about. For a while, we've been talking about the FIFA relief funds, and the NFF has just this morning shown us the distribution proposed distribution for that funds, how they want to allocate it. So let's talk about all of these issues. Let's talk about the UEFA Europa League. Let's talk about football transfer. A lot of stories already making the rounds about football transfer, players staying, players going. You can send us a mail. You can also get across to us on Twitter. We'll read your tweets at channels_sports. That's how you can get across to us. You can also send us a mail, sports this morning at channelstv.com. That's how you can get across to us. Let us talk. Let's feel your pause on all of these issues. Let's have your thoughts. Let's know how you feel about all of these issues. And probably if there's something you feel should get a mention on the show this morning that we've not talked about, you can also let us know because everything is all for you. All right, so let's move on. And this morning, we have the pleasure of having Akintunde Bada join us. He's not live with us in the studio, but of course, he joins us anyway, and we'll be talking about a whole lot of issues. All right, good morning, Bada. I know you can hear me. It's good to have you join us.
Good morning, Yemi. It's always a pleasure to be on the show. Good morning, Cecilia.
Good morning.
I believe there's a lot to get our teeth into, so let's just get right into it.
All right. So let me fire the first salvo here. The FIFA relief funds, I don't know if you've seen it, the proposed NFF has come about, in the spirit of transparency anyway, and I give them kudos for that. They've come out with the proposed distribution of the funds. In total, we have $2 million because there is the funds for women's football, there's the funds for CAF, there's the funds from some of their sponsors as well, and they have come out with a blueprint of how they want to spend that money. But I want to get your thoughts on all of it, and I assume that you've seen the proposed distribution.
Oh yes, I've seen it. $2 million is quite a tidy sum that a lot of the stakeholders within the space can use at this point in time, where there's economic pressure. Pressure to pay salaries, pressure to keep body and soul together. And so, first off, as you quite rightly said, we've got to commend the NFF for the transparency in communicating the proposed plan for the distribution. And so I'll just sort of read through how they've broken it down. They said the total sum is made up of $1 million from FIFA being support for restarting the football season, $500,000 from FIFA dedicated for women's football, and $300,000, which is CAF's support to its member association, and another $200,000 from NFF's sponsors. And how they hope to distribute along those lines, they want some of it, to the league. They want to give some of it to women's football. Basically, these are palliatives to cushion the effect of COVID. And we all know how devastating COVID has been, not just on football, but on our global economic life, if you may call it that. So I think that, as I've always liked to say, yes, we can commend the NFF for this, schedule that they've announced, but these are temporary measures. The sustainability of our football, we can't say that enough. Is premised on being able to articulate and deliver on a sustainable growth plan. That means that we don't necessarily depend on handouts from these organizations. Yes, they will come, but they shouldn't form the basis of our sustained football life. So it remains to be seen how we're able to build a sustainable, ecosystem for football. And I know about all the pressures, corporate Nigeria is reeling from the impact. Even before, there was not a lot of appetite or uptake for our football properties. It was such a hard sell. And the NFF, maybe even having one or two sponsors in itself is some sort of miracle. But it shouldn't be. What we want to see is a football ecosystem that is sustainable, a value chain that indeed has value in there. And it's doable here, even if we have to force the hands of government into some policy decisions to provide the structure on which we can build our football sustainably, even if it's for little things like giving incentives to corporate Nigeria to participate more by way of giving some tax waivers or tax breaks for organizations that sponsor football properties or football competitions or football associations. Let's move along those lines. If we need legislation, let's move along those lines. Because, I mean, just being in this way and talking about, oh, it's Nigeria, the Nigerian factor, things work differently here from how they work in other parts of the world, is basically just making excuses. We have to articulate what the major issues are and be sure that, we're putting our energies into moving the envelope. Even if in 2, 3, 4 years, what we're able to do is to get the right legislation. In 10 years, if we started 10 years ago and now we've got the right legislation that is promoting private, participation in football, where, people who have money are putting it where their heart is, and our local football can thrive on the back of that. You have a lot of countries we can point to across the world. There are third world countries that have thriving football systems. And so, I mean, ours wouldn't be an exception. We just have to have the will to do it. So that's my position.
Yeah, along the line you just mentioned, talking about sustaining and how you can actually give maybe tax rebates to those corporate organizations that may want to sponsor football. I think that's actually part of the sports policies that the sports minister is trying to implement. And I believe when the sports policies start working, we'll get to reap the benefits of that particular, things that you talked about. Now, let's just take a look at the breakdown.
Sorry,
yeah, we can't wait.
Sorry, before we get into the breakdown, just for the benefit of the viewers who may not understand how these things sort of cascade into what you see on the pitch. When you watch, football being broadcast from other parts of the world, and you don't have to go too far, even on the African continent. Yes. Look at the PSL in South Africa. Look at the leagues in Northern Africa. The realities are different right here. But Nigeria is the most populous black nation in the world and home to some of the world's richest people, even though, we have the highest number of poor people in the world. But you can't argue that we can't find corporate organizations or private individuals that can put their monies in the area of their passion. Football is maybe Nigeria's number one passion point or second passion point behind music, depending on, which side of the divide you sit on. I believe football has more, interest than music in terms of number of people who would want to put their monies in it. And we can go back a few years ago and reference the early 90s, the mid 90s, when we were at the height of our powers. And you see the appetite that people had for football. We dreamt, we lived, we drank, we ate football. And we need to get us back to that level of enthusiasm, back to that level of following. You can't tell me now that if the Super Eagles are playing a match at a stadium, even in Lagos here, you can guarantee the kinds of crowds that we had in the 90s. When I witnessed between 1994 and 1996 how incredibly difficult it was to get into the National Stadium in Surulere, which I believe sits about 43,000 people or thereabout. We had real interest, real following of the game locally. There was great appetite, and we need to return that appetite. We need to return those interest levels. We need to get Nigerians excited again to those levels where if the Nigerian national team, the Super Eagles, or the age grade teams were playing in Pluto or on Mars, Nigerians are ready to pay 500, 1,000, 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira to go and watch their darling team. I believe we can do that with the right plan, with the right strategy, and with the right, efforts focused in the right areas.
That's what we're expecting. Let's just take a look at the breakdown, of what is like the summary of what the Nigerian Football Federation have released, how they're going to disburse the money. Now, the highlight of it is the fact that the 20 NPFL clubs will get $15,000 each. Of course, this money will be converted to Naira, and they're going to use the official central bank rate, in paying the money. And 42 NNL clubs, that's the Nigerian National League, will get $5,000 each. Then you have about 306 teams in the NNLO, that's the Nationwide League. Each of them will be sharing, all the clubs will be sharing $50,000, all the clubs. Then for the Nigerian Women's Football League clubs, all the clubs, each of the 16 teams will get $10,000 each. And as I mentioned earlier, this payment will be made in Naira at the official central bank rate because, the central bank will now have to do the conversion for the money to be. This is the breakdown of all
Yep.
what Nigerian Football Federation planned to do. Women's football actually, taking a whole lot of space there from even the youth team, including the COVID-19 medical protocols and all that. All of them are all contained in that. The hiring of staff also is there. That had to do with the senior national team. So that's just how it is like coming from the Nigerian Football Federation this morning. The FIFA Football Restart Funds distribution, including that coming from the sponsors and also the one coming from CAF, is going to be shared among all the teams in the country.
All right, so I guess we just leave it there for now, and we'll see. They've shown us the proposed distribution, and we'll see how far it goes. We'll monitor whether or not they do what they say, but we must give them kudos for transparency. All right, Bada, let's quickly talk about the Europa League, and let's get your thoughts on the results from yesterday before we talk about today's games.
So I thought the game Inter Leverkusen was the pick of the bunch, or the pick of the two games that we saw last night. I thought Inter stormed into the game looking like they were going to run away with it. They scored two quick goals, Lukaku with the second one. They were very dominant early on, and it did look like they were going to steamroll over Leverkusen. But kudos to Leverkusen, they stayed in the game. They came back into it, got a goal in the late period of the first half and made it nervy for Inter. And there were some VAR drama, I think 3 of them, where the referee had pointed to the spot, awarded penalty kicks to Inter Milan, and then went to the pitch side monitor and saw that indeed there had been no infringement, and then changed his mind. And Romelu Lukaku, who had been waiting to score, was disappointed time and again. But overall, I thought that Leverkusen and Inter Milan did great advertising for Europa League football. A lot of times people think that this competition lacks the passion, lacks the verve, lacks the excitement and the sparks of the UEFA Champions League, and it's just a poor cousin of the elite club competition in Europe. But yesterday, that game was like your typical Champions League game. It had a lot of excitement. It was super entertaining, and I thought that the better side won and has progressed. Inter Milan, Antonio Conte's team. Our own Victor Moses did come on in the second half in that game to add a bit of freshness on the right side of midfield. He went up and down the right side quite frequently and did his job very, very well. But I thought Leverkusen gave a good account of themselves. But Inter deserved winners, and I think that they are super hot favorites to go on and win this particular competition. The second game, I think United huffed and puffed a lot against Copenhagen. And Copenhagen put up a masterclass in defensive display, and their goalkeeper, I think, made an incredible number of saves. He made about 16 or 17 saves in one football game, kept them in the game time and again. But at the end of the full-time, extra time period, United's quality shone through. There was a foul in the box. I think it was Antonio Martial that was fouled, and the Portuguese Fernandes. Converted as he always does to send United through to the next round. So between Inter and United, I think we're looking at 2 of the sides who must be firm favorites to go on and claim this season's Europa League title. Yesterday night, they told us how much they wanted this. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if it does go down to predictions and one of these 2 sides eventually emerges the winners of this year's competition.
Yeah, interesting, because you mentioned Antonio Martial and some of the things he did on the night. I mean, Owen Hargreaves, former Manchester United player, have actually described him as a Ferrari, that the guy is worth about £100 million. Do you share these views?
I don't know about this valuation. I don't know what currency is using for conversion, but there's no doubt in the fact that Anthony Martial has come into his own since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came in and started to play him down the middle. Under previous managers, he had played much on the left side of midfield, and sometimes he hadn't even looked that much interested in the play, especially under Mourinho, where there was a lot of talk about stifling tactics and whatnot. But since Ole, got a hang on the team and they started to play free-flowing football, quick passing, there's quick movement. Anthony Martial has come into his own and is scoring goals. Is proving himself to be a consistent, consummate finisher. And he scored a lot of goals this season alongside Marcus Rashford, and they're just enjoying their football. Rashford, Greenwood, and Martial, the front three for United. The bad news there is that for as long as Martial keeps delivering in that role, our owner Johnny Gallo won't get a look in, and he didn't get to play yesterday. But there's no denying the fact that United look really, really good with these three guys in attack. And Owen Hargreaves is right. Martial cost United a lot of money. I think upwards of £50 million
Yes.
when he was bought years ago as a teenager, and there were lots of hopes. In fact, his contract has a clause that states that if he wins the Ballon d'Or, there's an amount of money that goes to his former club. And for you to have a Ballon d'Or clause in your contract, it must mean that they had high hopes for your future. And I think that Anthony Martial is beginning to show glimpses, and sparks that mean that, well, if he keeps progressing in a couple of years' time, he might just be in the reckoning for some of the top individual honors in world football.
All right. Let's just keep you on hold. We need to listen to both managers immediately after the game. They had some interesting things to say. The Manchester United manager and, of course, the manager for FC Copenhagen. So let's listen to both managers, and of course, we'll be back to take it off from there.
Yeah.
All right. Bada, let me quickly come to you. The goalkeeper has one of your names, by the way. Cecilia just reminded me 14 shots saved by that goalkeeper. How long do you think that goalkeeper is going to stay with Copenhagen?
Chelsea need the goalkeeper.
It's not enough to, it's not enough to produce that sort of scintillating display in just a game. It's got to keep it consistent. And I'm sure off the back of that performance yesterday, there's a lot of more eyeballs following him around. And if he keeps playing that way in their local league in Denmark, it's only a matter of time before he makes the switch over to one of the big leagues in world football. Obviously, like you quite rightly said, United are looking for a goalkeeper, but he doesn't have the stature to man the post for United. It's not just about being an incredibly good goalkeeper. You also must have some name and some clout, and we've seen that in the type of recruitment that United, the likes of Chelsea, Real Madrid have made. Case in point, Real Madrid, where Keylor Navas was arguably one of the best shot stoppers in the world, and they kept on with their obsession with Thibaut Courtois when, from a performance standpoint, strictly, there was not much to choose between them. In fact, I'm a bigger fan of Keylor Navas than I am of Courtois. But because Courtois has the name, has Spanish and all those things. Yeah. I mean, these things play a part in football. It's all part of the branding and the marketing and all of the equity that they want to build behind their brand and the eyeballs that they want to pull.
All right. We need to go on a break now. When we come back, we'll be talking about the games for tonight. Wolves will be up against Sevilla. Welcome back. We still have Akintunde Bada Johnson still right here in this. Okay, still joining us. He's still live on Skype with us this morning. I will be talking about the games for tonight. Sevilla will be up against Wolves. And for the coach, Nuno Espirito Santo has been talking about the fact that they know they have a very good opponent to play, but then all the players will have to put in their best to be able to beat them. Then you have Shakhtar Donetsk and Barcelona will also be in action. Wolves and Sevilla also in action. And the winner between Wolves and Sevilla, that's the opponent that Manchester United would be facing.
And the winner of Shakhtar Basel faces Inter.
Inter Milan, in this semi-final. So these teams are ready to go. Bada, I mean, these guys, we've seen Wolves, they played like 58 games so far. This is, I think that's the team that played the highest numbers of games. You have other teams also that have played such games. So I think the fact that they're still in Europe at this stage simply means he's got a good team to really give Sevilla some trouble.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I go with them as favorites going into this particular game. And you've spoken about the quantum or the number of games that they played already this season. It would have been much of an issue or disadvantage had it not been for the 3 months of Corona-imposed break. So there's been some freshness in that time that they wouldn't have had the season not been interrupted. But you look at that Wolves team, and the fact that Arsenal has won the FA Cup means that now to get to Europe next season, they must go and win this competition. and get into the UEFA Champions League. And I look at that team and I feel like with 3 games to go, they have everything they need to do it. They may not be as fancy as Inter or United, but if they get past Sevilla, they play United next. And, that's an all-English game. Anything can happen. We've seen them give United trouble in the domestic league and give all the big teams in England a run for their money. Nuno has done a phenomenal job, and it will be very disappointing if after the season they've had, they don't end up with European football. They've combined domestic football and European football this year so well for a team that doesn't have such an incredible, number of established world-class players. They've grown their modest, talent into a world-class, hard-to-beat team. The likes of Adama Traore have sparkled this season on a consistent basis. Raul Jimenez. I mean, you can't speak enough. You can't speak highly enough of Raul Jimenez and the number of goals he's scored. How competent he's proven to be as a number 9, and his partnership with Adama Traore. When Adama takes on players and whips in those crosses, you can be sure 9 out of 10 times it is Raul Jimenez who's getting on the end of them. Yeah. And I believe that with the sheer strength and determination of that team, the physical superiority that they would have over that Sevilla team, I think that they can win tonight's match, even though Sevilla is not a team to be taken for granted. They had a very strong finish to the league season, and they will play maybe the better football on the night. But Wolves can stay compact, can stay with a very solid defensive shape, and pick them apart on the break. They've got the pace with players like Neto and Adama Traore. In the middle, they have the experience of how Moutinho. They have Neves. Players who can pick the right passes at the right time and get Adama Traore and Neto in behind to create chances for Jimenez to feed on. So I believe that Wolves will win this game. Okay. I'm sticking my neck out. I'm backing them because I know that I understand what it would mean for their season, and I'd hate that their season just crumbles in the final weeks just because Arsenal won the FA Cup. They didn't finish higher than they did in the league, and they didn't go as far as they could go in the Europa League.
Okay, I mean, the coach quite agree with you that he's going to be facing a very, very strong opposition. Let's just take this quote coming from Nuno Espirito Santo this morning. He says, they are a very, very good team and a tough opponent, good players, a good manager, big challenge for us. Enjoyable or not, I cannot guess, but we are committed to it. So let's play it and let's play good. It went further to say that I think all the teams involved in this competition know each other very well. Sevilla are a very, very good team. We've been analyzing and we know of their talent and quality. And the quality of Lopetegui, that's the coach, who I knew personally, it's going to be a very, very tough match. Okay, we're ready for a tough clash, Yemi?
We leave it at that. That's what's attributed to the Wolves manager, Nuno Espirito Santo there. Okay, let's quickly take this out of the way. Champions League is going to be tomorrow, but the news has been about Atletico and the 2 players who tested positive for COVID-19, although they're not traveling with the squad. They've been cleared. They've been cleared to go. But your thoughts on that one before we quickly take a look at the papers?
Well, it was one of those risks that we ran once we restarted football. Footballers will go back and mix with regular people, and there's that potential that they may get infected. And unfortunately, 2 Atletico Madrid players have tested positive of coronavirus close to a very important Champions League game. But I think that the Atletico team has too much motivation, too much character to be disturbed significantly by this development. I think that their side of the draw is actually the easier one. If you consider that, the next opponent for Bayern and Man City will be the winners between Bayern and Barcelona. So their own side of the draw is a bit easier, and I put my money on Atletico Madrid to maybe go all the way to the final. So it's a big scare, but it's not one that I think will disturb their progress or their progression in this competition that much.
All right, so, okay, let's leave it at that, even though some people will talk about PSG, but we don't have time for that. We'll do that some other time. PSG is on that lane as well. Well, we'll do that some other time. Let's take a look at the papers. Bada. Let me start with Sporting Life. Some interesting stories in there. You have The one we just talked about, Atletico Madrid squad test negative, Willian on the goals, Arsenal medical, you have Real Madrid move for Paulo Dybala, you have the story on Osimhen, statement credited to Dosu Joseph that Osimhen will score goals, Gattuso raps Andrea Pirlo. It's interesting to know what that story is all about. But let me just pause. Which one of these stories get you talking Bada?
The Osimhen one, I look forward to it a lot, but I did see some worrying things in the press. Osimhen debunking certain statements attributed to him in terms of, maybe living up to the stature of Diego Maradona, or the importance or significance of Diego in a Napoli shirt. He came out and said, he didn't see anything like that. And I feel like Osimhen should just focus on doing the business on the pitch, allow the guys who understand the media to decide what goes out in the press, desist from tweeting or posting things that can sort of cause unnecessary drama around him. I think his handlers have to just sort of focus him on the important things, which is right now, Napoli are out of the Champions League. He couldn't participate because it was cup tied. They're going to be preparing for next season. How does he hit the ground running? How does he justify the huge layout, the huge investment that the club has made on him? So less of social media, less of the press, less of the media.
Okay.
Just focus on doing the business on the pitch and let this game, his football, do the talking for him.
I hope you'll be able to do that. Our last paper for review this morning is Complete Sports. And here you have Dortmund rule out Sancho transfer. I mean, the news came in much later last night, where the football director says he's not going anywhere. He's there until 2023. And Musa scores a first league goal in 16 months. Okay, we will not be able to get your reaction on this one, but we just need to leave it here this morning. But Akintunde Jones, we want to thank you so much for taking our time to join us this morning on the program.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you guys for watching. I'm Cecilia Mogbe. Bye for now.
All right. Yeah, thank you for allowing us to be a part of the day. I'm Yemi Adebayo. Bye-bye now.